Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Collins and this is Outsiders, and welcome back to my programme. Tonight I'm doing a mailbag programme. It's about 20 to 8 UK time. I've got a few emails that I really wanted to pick up on, and some of them do go back out, unfortunately, 6 weeks or so. So I do apologise, particularly to this first person, who's known as Fazonomy. Now, Fazonomy asked this question. It's a great question. He says, is it fair? I've got a question I think that our DM would listen to if he got your answer. I've been to about 2 of the 4 sessions that our D&D group has had, and I've had to be out of town on the other 2 that I missed. So the last one the last one, which would have been our 4th session, I was supposed to level up, but the DM didn't let me level up. To make a point that I should be there when we both knew that I couldn't, even though I wanted to. So is this a fair call by the DM? First of all, as you know, anybody that's read my program will listen to it. I mean, obviously the DM, it's his game. He runs it how he wants to run it. I can't really comment on that part. But what I can say, from my own point of view, is it fair? You're playing D&D. No, it isn't, because you see the problem is that D&D is all or nothing. When you get your experience points, it's a big bang buck. You get it all. To make a player play through a session and not allow him to level up, well, bottom line, I call it dead man walking syndrome. You've got far more chance of killing that character off, and equally you might kill someone else off because the balance of the group has suddenly dropped off, and therefore there's a very good chance that that player will draw off. More resources are going to be needed to keep him propped up. Even one level makes a huge difference in a well-run game. So I think you have to be incredibly careful. I understand why he tried to make that point of view. I mean, I think all DMs do get frustrated with players who can't make it, but if you've genuinely given a legitimate reason why you can't make it, I think it's pretty clear to any DM that a real player, wants to be there, and they'll pretty much, the hardcore players will try and get there as many times as they can, and they'll only miss it when they have to because they enjoy it so much. So if I was in that DM's shoes, to be honest, I wouldn't have done it that way. I'd have taken the player aside, in your case you, had a chat with you about why you've missed it, hope to get commitment that you're going to get buy-in for the next sessions, try my best where applicable. If more than one player can't make it, maybe to reschedule or think about that. But if I've got the majority of the players, I'm going ahead anyway. For me personally, the way I do it is that if a player misses a session, I don't give them any experience points. If another character is kind enough to want to play that character in for balance purposes, then I will give that player experience points as if they were there. But I give the player that's playing the second character a little bonus, because quite frankly, it's a very difficult thing to do. And I certainly wouldn't expect new players to run 2 characters. It's tough enough as it is. But that's my opinion on it. That's my take. And hopefully that's of some use to you, Zonoman. Thank you very much for the question. My second one is from Second Starlick, who asks, how do you track alignment easily? Well, that's very easy. I don't. You see, I reached a point many years ago. I mean, as DMs, we've all been there. We love tinkering. And one of the easiest things to tinker with is alignment system, particularly, I'm assuming here, D&D. The trouble is, really, the only people that alignment really is affecting and hurting is actually the players. And one thing really that was brought home to me that really struck a chord and made me really rethink my thoughts on alignment, because I did everything. I thought about tracking alignment, I thought about certain spells. If somebody cast them, then they had an impact on the alignment track. They'd go, more towards evil, necromantic sort of things, that sort of thing, summoning undead. But I put a lot of effort into that, and then I realised when one player played a character one way that there was many ways to skin a cat. Let me explain that. He played a paladin, but he made it really clear from the beginning of the campaign. It was real fire and brimstone. Any evil should be killed. There was no fine line. It was evil, should be eradicated. That was his thought process. And that was a really interesting character because it put him in some really dangerous situations, and the rest of the group, because of the way he wanted to play it. But it was very, very... I couldn't say it wasn't devout good. And equally, you could imagine a character playing the complete opposite, so almost like turn the other cheek, Jesus, biblical character. Both of them are really very good people, but go about it in completely different ways, really, if you think about it. So alignment, how easy is it to track? It's very difficult. But saying that, I think you can put your players in moral dilemmas, and you can put situations in. There are certain character classes where alignment is far more important than others. I mean, if you could be playing a lawful good straight fighter. So what if he deviates out of his alignment? Really? So he's changed. I mean, people do change over time. I mean, it's not a huge swing. Perhaps that's the way the character develops. But for Paladin, of course, changing even minutely out of the alignment scope means atonement. Same with a monk. It means probably changing a career. So there is a reason to have some ideas. So I like moral dilemmas. And I had a really good one recently. I want to use it as an example where I it was a relatively mid-level sort of. We reached a point in the campaign. Characters about 10th, 11th level. There was a big fight in the middle of a town, and a number of buildings, because of who they were fighting, were going up in flames. And it happened that a woman. I love putting little pieces in the middle of the game, and it just come to me as a great idea that just where the paladin was fighting this Umber Hulk in the middle of the town, which was a fantastic scene. This woman up on an upstairs window, the building's full of it's full of flames, it's burning. She's holding her baby out. Please save my baby. Please save my baby. And at which point she throws it towards the street, and the paladin's close by. So I give him the opportunity. What are you going to do? And instantly he says, I'm going to carry on fighting this Umber Hulk. So after the combat had finished, I said to him, I'm sorry, but you find, and I started doing it really subtly. I said, for some reason, I'll try and re-explain that. I started to try and, over the next 2 or 3 sessions in games, little things I'd throw back, you think you hear something, it sounds like a baby cry, and you just link it all back in, and then I made him effectively atone for his sins. I never stripped him actually of his powers, but because of the way that I played it, it forced him to think about his actions and atone for it, and he actually went out of his way, which I thought was fantastic, to raise that child from the dead. I mean, it was brilliant, and I'd certainly use that as an example of what you can do. So I don't tend to track alignment at all, actually. It really only affects a few characters. There are some very, very good tips out there from other DMs who are far more into the alignment tracking stuff than me. I recently saw Tower Guard DM Win, superb video on alignment tracking. I'm going to ask him to link it to this bit, actually, and hope he will. If you listen to this Win, please do send it to me and I'll link it on. But it's a very, very interesting piece. So for me, I don't bother anymore because I tend to try and put my players in moral dilemmas, and really it comes from the backstory the character builds. Try and get a paladin to justify straight away at the very beginning a code of conduct that he's going to live by, and the same with a monk, a lawful good, and that generally works very well, I find. Anyway, thank you for the question. Strolling Bones asks, very simply at the end here, how do you deal with 3.5 level adjustment for characters? How does level adjustments work? Obviously, you're talking about races here. The example you gave, I believe, is Tieflings. Now, Tiefling has a +1 level adjustment, and I believe in your campaign, you're starting characters up, or you're being asked by your DM to start characters at 5th level. So what that means is the first level of the character is a Tiefling. The other 4 levels are whatever you want it to be. So simply put, that's how level adjustment actually works. And it's the same as if you were playing a +2 level adjustment Drow. The first 2 levels are taken up with a Drow, the other 3 can be whatever you want. So you can see there is a give up. You give something up by playing races with level adjustment. And I hope, Strolling Bones, that answers your question. Anyway, I've been Sean Connors. This has been Outsiders. Thank you for another a mailbag programme, so I'll put my teeth back in. And thank you very much for the subscriptions, the various comments that you've been sending, and all your support. Carry on gaming until the next time. See you then. Bye-bye.